Chapter 4. The Kiln House. The old quarter felt different from the market square. Here the stones were older, the shadows longer. Buildings leaned against each other like tired soldiers, mortar cracked but holding, roofs patched with mismatched tiles that told stories of decades spent weathering storms. The streets narrowed into alleys, and the alleys bent into passages that remembered when Mirkdusk was smaller, quieter, and far less complicated. The kiln house rose at the end of a lane that dead-ended against the southern perimeter wall. Brick and stone, 3 stories tall, windows like empty eyes. The roof sagged in 2 places, visible even from the street, but the bones of the structure were solid. Old construction, built to last. A patrol passed them as they approached. 2 soldiers from the 5077th Combat Engineers and an elven ranger, moving with the easy rhythm of people who'd walked this route 100 times. The sergeant leading them nodded to Clora. "Alpha," he said, respectful but not formal. "Building's clear." "We swept it last week. Structurally sound, but the lay underneath's fractured. Gives some people the creeps." "Noted," Clora said. "We're just checking something. Won't be long." "Copy that. We'll be back through in 20. The patrol moved on, boots striking cobblestone in steady cadence. Derren watched them go. They cleared it. That's comforting. "They cleared it for squatters," Argoz said, "not for sneaky spycraft dead drops hidden behind soot chutes." "Also comforting," Derren replied. Clora approached the building, eyes scanning the exterior. The main entrance faced the lane, heavy wooden door, warped but intact. The east side opened onto a narrower alley where the service bay would be. "Argoz," Clora said. "You're up." Argoz grinned and moved past them, leading the way into the alley. The service bay was exactly where she'd said, a recessed area with a wide door that had probably once allowed carts to back in for loading. Beside it, almost hidden behind a stack of rotted crates, was a smaller side door. Argoz tested the handle. It turned without resistance. "Told you. Nobody cares about this place anymore." The door opened on rusted hinges, groaning softly. Beyond it, darkness. Eli lifted her bracer, and a beam of clean white light cut into the interior. The service bay was narrow and tall, brick walls rising to a ceiling lost in shadow. The soot chute ran along the right wall, a vertical shaft of blackened stone, its opening partially blocked by debris. Omega's nose twitched. He moved forward cautiously, testing the air, then looked back at Clora. Safe. Old smells, but nothing fresh. "Clear," Clora said softly. "Argoz, where's the passage?" Argoz stepped past Omega and moved along the soot chute, running her hand along the bricks. "Here. See how the stones are different? This section was added later, probably to seal off the chute when they stopped using it." She found a gap in the debris and squeezed through, disappearing into the narrow space beyond. Her voice echoed back, muffled. "Passage is tight, but it's here. One at a time." Clora went next, slipping through the gap with the staff of light angled carefully to avoid catching on stone. The passage beyond was exactly as Argoz had described, narrow, dark, claustrophobic. Her shoulders brushed both walls as she moved forward, and the smell of old soot clung to everything. Eli followed, bracer light bouncing off close walls. Then Derren, muttering under his breath about tight spaces and why couldn't Ravina hide things in nice places. Omega brought up the rear, his bulk barely fitting, but he moved with the fluid grace of a predator used to squeezing through impossibly small spaces. The passage opened into a small alcove, maybe 6 feet across, low ceiling, maintenance access for the old ductwork that branched off in 3 directions. And there, at knee height on the left wall, was a panel. 2 flat bolts painted grey to match the stone, exactly as Ravina had described. "That's it," Clora said. Eli moved forward, lifting her bracer. The device hummed softly, scanning the panel and the space around it. Glyphs scrolled across her display: structural integrity, residual magic, ward signatures. "Readings?" Clora asked. "Panel's clean," Eli said, frowning slightly. "No active wards, no traps, Structural integrity is solid. The crate inside should be... She paused, adjusting filters. Wait. There's residual magic, but it's dormant. Old signature, trickster adjacent, but it's not active. Dormant until triggered, Derren asked. Maybe, Eli said, but my scans aren't picking up a trigger mechanism. It's like it's just waiting. Argoz crouched beside the panel, studying it with the careful attention of someone who'd grown up in places like this. Her hand hovered near the bolts but didn't touch. The celestial gem at her throat pulsed faintly. Not a warning, just awareness. Ravina's a trickster's daughter. If she wanted this found by the right people, she'd make it look safe. The trap wouldn't be on the door. It'd be inside. Or it's not trapped at all, Derren said. Maybe she's just paranoid and hid it really well. You believe that? Clora asked. Not even a little, Derren admitted. Clora drew a slow breath, weighing options. They could leave it, call for specialists, spend days analysing something that might just be a dead drop. Or they could do what they came here to do. She looked at Eli. If I open it and something happens, can you counter it? Eli's jaw tightened. Depends on what it is. If it's a ward, maybe. If it's a physical trap, no. If it's something else. She trailed off. Reassuring, Derren muttered. Derren pulled a multi-tool from his belt and knelt beside the panel. The bolts were old, but not rusted. Maintained, or at least not exposed to the elements. He fitted the tool to the first bolt and began to turn. It moved smoothly. Too smoothly. The second bolt came free just as easily. Derren set them aside and gripped the edge of the panel. Ready? Weapons came up. Eli's Desert Eagle, Argoz's pistol crossbow. Omega's hackles rose, a low growl building in his chest. Derren pulled. The panel swung open on hidden hinges, revealing a small cavity behind it. Inside, exactly as described, was a crate. Small, light, wood-reinforced with metal bands. And branded on the lid, slightly off-center, was a symbol, a closed eye. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then the air in the alcove went cold. Eli's bracer shrieked an alarm, glyphs flaring red across her display. Shit! Portal opening right here! Reality tore. Not a clean rip like the portals they used, but a jagged wound in space that bled wrongness into the air. The edges flickered with colours that had no names, and through the gap came a sound like metal scraping bone. 4 shapes poured through. The first was smoke and shadow-given form, a shade stalker, its body flickering between solid and ephemeral, eyes like cold stars burning in a face that shouldn't exist. It moved in the tight space like oil through water, clinging to walls and ceiling. The second was stone and silence, a stone sentinel barely fitting in the alcove, hunched and massive, arms ending in fists that scraped the low ceiling. 8 feet of granite and old rage compressed into a space meant for maintenance workers. The third was whisper and fear. A whisper wraith, semi-corporeal, robes of mist that trailed into nothing. A face hidden behind a veil of shadow. It didn't need space. It simply was, filling the alcove with cold dread. The fourth was thorn and fury, a thorn elemental, vines and barbs already spreading across the floor, climbing walls, filling every gap with reaching tendrils that moved like living serpents. The alcove was too small. The team was packed in, no room to maneuver, no space to retreat. The passage behind them was single file only. Oh, good, Derren said, voice tight, already backing toward the passage. Party favours? Ravina, you shouldn't have. No, really, you shouldn't have. The Shadestalker struck first. It blurred across the ceiling and dropped onto Eli like a falling shadow. She twisted, barely avoiding claws that gouged stone where her head had been and slashed upward with the pack dagger. Starlight met darkness and the creature shrieked, a sound like glass breaking in reverse, and skittered back to the ceiling. Starlight hurts it, Eli gasped, already calculating angles in a space where there were no good angles. Light-based attacks. The stone sentinel moved, not fast, but inevitable in the confined space. It swung one massive fist, and Derren had nowhere to go. He dropped flat, the blow passing inches over his head and punching through the wall behind him. Brick and mortar exploded outward, and suddenly there was a hole, ragged, person-sized, leading into the main chamber beyond. "Secondary exit!" Derren shouted, rolling aside as the sentinel's other fist came down where he'd just been. "Courtesy of the stone bastard!" Clora brought the staff of light up, but there was no room for a proper swing. She jabbed instead, crystal blazing, catching the Shade Stalker as it dove again. Pure radiance flooded the tight space, and the creature screamed, retreating to the darkest corner it could find, which wasn't far in the cramped alcove. The Whisper Wraith didn't attack physically. It simply existed, and in the close quarters there was no escape from its presence. Fear crawled up spines, old nightmares surfaced, breath came harder. Omega snarled and lunged, jaws snapping at mist, and the Wraith recoiled, not from injury, but from the dire wolf's sheer refusal to be afraid. The Thorn Elemental was the worst. Vines covered the floor now, wrapping ankles, climbing legs, filling the space with thorns that tore at exposed skin. Argoz moved constantly, never staying still, celestial gem blazing as her enhanced speed let her stay one step ahead of the grasping tendrils. "We can't fight in here," she shouted, driving a dagger into a vine that tried to wrap her wrist. "Too tight." "Stone Boy made us a door," Derren called back, firing Thunderstrike at the sentinel's knee. The buckshot hit, stone cracked, but the creature barely noticed. "Use it!" Clora made the call. "Fall back! Through the wall! Omega, lead!" The dire wolf didn't need to be told twice. He bounded through the hole the sentinel had made, disappearing into the larger chamber. Argoz followed, moving like water, pistol crossbow firing back at the Thorn Elemental as she went. Eli was next, pack dagger still raised, backing through while keeping the Shade Stalker at bay, with periodic slashes of starlight. Derren fired one more round at the stone sentinel, slugs this time, aimed at the same damaged knee, and the joint finally gave. The creature dropped with a crash that shook the floor, and Derren took the opportunity to dive through the gap. Clora came last, staff blazing, holding the line as long as she dared. The four creatures tried to follow, Shade Stalker flowing through like smoke, Whisper Wraith drifting, Thorn Elemental's vines reaching through the gap, and the stone sentinel crawling now, too big to fit easily but too stubborn to stop. She backed into the main chamber and raised the staff high. The space was vast compared to the alcove. 3 stories of open air, old grinding stones still in place, support columns holding up what remained of the roof. Light from gaps in the walls cast angular shadows across brick and stone. And now they had room to fight. The Shade Stalker came through first, reforming in the shadows cast by the grinding stones. It circled fast and predatory, looking for an opening. Eli tracked it with the Desert Eagle, waiting for it to solidify. When it did, just for a heartbeat, she fired. The enchanted .44 round caught it mid-lunge, and starlight runes flared. The creature shrieked and retreated, but it was slowing. The alcove fight had worn it down. "Keep it moving," Eli called. "It can't reform if we don't give it time." Clora obliged, staff of light blazing in a wide arc. Radiance swept the chamber, and the Shade Stalker had nowhere to hide. It tried to flee back to the alcove, but Omega was waiting. The dire wolf's jaws closed on shadow that shouldn't have had substance, and his teeth, enhanced by pack bond, by instinct older than fear, held. Eli closed in, pack dagger raised. "Hold it, Omega." She drove the blade into the stalker's core. Starlight flared, brilliant and consuming, and the creature's scream cut off. Its form shattered, essence pulled into the dagger's gem, absorbed, gone. One down. The Whisper Wraith drifted through and the temperature in the chamber plummeted. Breath misted. Fear crept along the edges of thought, not overwhelming but present, insistent. In the larger space, it couldn't focus its presence the way it had in the alcove, But it was still dangerous. It targeted Argoz. Maybe because she was moving fastest. Maybe because the celestial gem drew its attention. The wraith drifted toward her, and for a moment her speed faltered. The gem flared, trying to compensate, but fear wasn't a physical threat. The gem couldn't fight what it couldn't touch. Argoz stumbled, eyes wide, seeing something that wasn't there. "Argoz!" Derren shouted, but he was too far, dealing with vines from the thorn elemental that had spread into the chamber. Clora moved. She crossed the distance in 4 strides and thrust the staff of light between Argoz and the wraith. Pure radiance blazed, and the wraith recoiled, its whispers cut short. Argoz gasped, shook her head, and the celestial gem steadied, awareness returning, speed flooding back. "Thanks," she breathed. "Stay close," Clora said. Together they pressed the attack. Clora's staff blazed, driving the wraith back, and Argoz darted in with her curved daggers, striking at the edges of its form, not killing it, but fraying it, breaking its cohesion. The wraith tried to drift away, tried to hide in shadows, but there were no shadows deep enough. Not with Clora's light filling the chamber. Eli appeared on the wraith's other side, pack dagger ready. "Now!" Both blades struck as one, Eli's dagger and Clora's staff, starlight converging. The wraith convulsed, form unraveling, mist shredding away. Its final whisper faded into nothing, essence absorbed. 2 down. The thorn elemental had spread. Vines covered a quarter of the chamber floor now, climbing columns, wrapping around the old grinding stones, thorns everywhere. It had more room here, more space to grow, and it was using every inch. Derren had to keep moving, kicking free of vines that tried to root him in place, firing Thunderstrike at the creature's core whenever he had a clear shot. But the thing kept regenerating, green light pulsing, new growth replacing every vine he destroyed. "I swear if this thing bleeds glitter, I'm writing a very stern letter," he shouted, backing up as a thorn-covered tendril lashed at his face. Eli switched targets, leveling the desert eagle at the elemental's core, a tight weave of vines where something like a heart pulsed green. She fired. The round hit, and fire bloomed where the runes ignited organic matter. "It burns!" she called. "Fire! Heat! Anything that ignites!" Clora shifted her aim, pouring radiance from the staff into the elemental's core. Where light touched, vines withered, the green glow dimming to ash-grey. The creature pulled back, trying to protect itself, vines retracting toward the center. Argoz saw the opening. The celestial gem blazed, and she moved, faster than human, legs pumping, body low. She closed the distance in heartbeats, leapt, and drove both curved daggers into the exposed core. The elemental convulsed. Vines whipped wildly, one catching Argoz across the ribs and hurling her sideways. She hit a grinding stone hard, gasped, but rolled to her feet, daggers still smoking in her hands. The thorn elemental shuddered once, twice, then collapsed inward. Vines retracted, thorns crumbled. The green light faded to nothing. 3 down. The stone sentinel crawled through the gap it had made, finally squeezing its bulk into the main chamber. It rose, slowly, damaged knee barely holding. But it rose, 8 feet of stone and fury, one arm shattered from the alcove fight but still coming. Derren had been chipping away at it since the beginning. Buckshot to joints, slugs to cracks. The creature was a wreck now, barely mobile, but it wouldn't stop. "Ravina's got a type," Derren said, circling, reloading. Slow, dumb, and too stubborn to quit. Relatable. The sentinel lunged, more of a fall than an attack, and Derren sidestepped. The creature crashed into the floor where he'd been standing, and the impact cracked stone. Argoz appeared on its back, celestial gem flaring so bright it cast hard shadows. She drove both daggers into the seam where neck met shoulders and twisted. Stone cracked, then shattered. The sentinel reached back, trying to grab her, but she was already gone, leaping clear. "Derren!" she shouted. "Head! Now!" Derren leveled Thunderstrike, aimed at the sentinel's face, and fired. Slug round. Enchanted. Point blank. The creature's head exploded. Stone shards sprayed across the chamber and the sentinel's body crashed down, twitched once, then went still. Silence. The team stood in the wreckage, breathing hard, weapons raised, waiting for the next thing to try to kill them. Nothing moved. Slowly, very slowly, they began to lower their weapons. "Is that it?" Argoz asked, voice hoarse. Eli checked her bracer, scanning for residual magic. "Portals closed. No more signatures. I think we're clear." Derren leaned heavily on Thunderstrike, using it like a cane. "Good. Great. Fantastic. Can we please go home now?" "After we get the crate," Clora said, exhaustion settling into her voice. "That's what we came for." They moved back toward the alcove, slower this time, every step an effort. The passage seemed longer now, darker, and the alcove felt smaller after the fight in the main chamber. But the crate was still there, untouched, waiting. Clora knelt and carefully lifted it out of the cavity. Light. Just as Ravina had said, she carried it back into the main chamber where there was more room and set it on the ground near one of the grinding stones. The team gathered around it, exhausted, battered, but alive. "We earned this," Clora said quietly. "Whatever's inside, we earned it." She reached for the lid. Outside, beyond the walls, in the street where none of them could see, essences were gathering. Shadow and stone and whisper and thorn drifting through cracks, seeping through gaps, coalescing in the empty lane. They hadn't dissipated. They'd retreated. And now, away from the starlight and the blades and the fire, they were combining. The air grew cold. The light dimmed. Something vast began to take shape. Inside the kiln house, Clora opened the crate. The contents were exactly as Ravina had described. A brass swaddle pin engraved with the healer's rune. A torn cart chit stamped outer farms, with a dusk mark still visible, a twist of red thread knotted twice, and a thin flake of vial lac that shimmered faintly in Eli's bracer light. "It's all here," Eli said, already cataloguing, already analysing. "The pin confirms medical care. This child's being treated, not used in rituals. The cart chit gives us a location and time window. The thread is a buyer's token." She picked it up carefully with tweezers. "And this vial lac will have residual alchemical signature. I can trace this." Derren leaned against a column, catching his breath. "So we've got a trail." "Outer farms. Dusk runs. Medical care. That's actually actionable intel." "It is," Clora agreed, carefully returning each item to the crate. "Ravina came through. We can—" The roof exploded, not collapsed. Exploded. Debris rained down as something massive punched through from above, claws the size of swords, scales of shadow and stone, a head that filled half the open sky. The dragon's roar shook the building's foundations, and its eyes burned with cold starlight and ancient fury. A wrath dragon, fully formed, essence of all four creatures woven together into something far worse than the sum of its parts. "You've got to be kidding me!" Derren shouted, diving behind a grinding stone as shadow fire scorched the air where he'd been standing. The dragon's head crashed through what remained of the roof, jaws snapping at Argoz. She rolled, came up running, celestial gem blazing as her speed let her stay just ahead of teeth that could have swallowed her whole. Clora grabbed the crate and shoved it into a protected corner behind a support column. "Eli, protect the evidence." "On it!" Eli positioned herself between the crate and the dragon. Desert Eagle raised. The dragon pulled back, then smashed through the western wall. Brick exploded outward, and suddenly half the building was open to the street. The creature was too big for the structure. It was destroying the kiln house just by trying to get at them. "Outside," Clora ordered. "We need room." They ran, through the gap the dragon had made into the street, and finally there was space. The creature pulled itself free of the building, wings unfurling, body coiling, shadow and stone, whisper and thorn, all woven together. It was twice the size it should have been, fed by rage and magic and the power of 4 deaths. Omega snarled, planting himself between the dragon and Clora. The dragon's gaze fixed on him. Dire wolf versus composite nightmare, and for a moment, neither moved. Then the dragon lunged. Clora met it with the staff of light blazing. Starlight and shadow fire collided, and the street lit up like noon. The dragon recoiled, hissing, but came again, claws raking at her, tail lashing. She rolled aside, came up, struck at its foreleg. The staff carved a line of light through shadow scales, and the creature shrieked. "Aim for the seams," she shouted, "where the essences meet." Shadow, stone, whisper, thorn, break the connections. Derren loaded a UV round, one of the last he had, and aimed for the dragon's chest, where shadow bled into stone. He fired. The round hit, and ultraviolet light exploded across the boundary. The dragon shrieked, and for a moment, the 2 essences separated, shadow pulling away from stone, the binding fraying. "There!" Eli called, firing the Desert Eagle at the wing where thorn met mist. The heavy round punched through and the wing collapsed, vines losing cohesion without the whisper essence to hold them. The dragon couldn't fly, but it could still kill. It charged Derren jaws wide. He dove aside and the creature's head smashed into the building behind him. More walls collapsing, more debris raining down. Derren rolled, came up, fired Thunderstrike into the dragon's open mouth. Buckshot! The shot tore through soft tissue, and the dragon reeled back, roaring. Argoz moved like lightning. She sprinted up a pile of rubble, leapt onto the dragon's back, and climbed, daggers finding purchase in the seams between scales. The celestial gem blazed, and her strength was inhuman. She reached the base of the dragon's skull and drove both blades into the connection point where Whisper met Thorn. The dragon bucked, trying to throw her. Its tail whipped around, caught her across the shoulder, and sent her flying. She hit the ground hard, tumbled, and didn't get up right away. "Argoz!" Clora shouted. "I'm good!" Argoz gasped, forcing herself to her knees. Blood ran from her nose and her left arm hung wrong, but the celestial gem pulsed, already working to stabilize her. "Keep hitting it!" Omega charged. He hit the dragon's hind leg at full speed, jaws locking onto the joint where shadow met stone. He bit down, shook, and the joint shattered. Essence breaking apart, the leg collapsing. The dragon toppled. It crashed into the street, thrashing, trying to rise. But it couldn't hold together anymore. The 4 essences were separating, the binding unraveling. Clora moved in close, staff of light raised high. She could see it now, the core where all 4 essences knotted together, right behind the dragon's breastbone. That was the anchor. That was what held it. "Derren!" she called. "The eye!" Same as before. Derren understood. He moved around to the dragon's head, where its eye, the burning cold light of the Shade Stalker, still blazed. The creature saw him coming, snapped at him, but it was slow now, dying. He leveled Thunderstrike at the eye. "Hey, Ravina," he said conversationally. "Next time you want to leave a present, try chocolates." He fired. The slug round hit the eye dead center, and the light went out. The dragon convulsed. Clora struck at the same moment, staff blazing, starlight pouring into the creature's chest, into the core where the essences met. Light and darkness collided, and for a heartbeat, the world went white. Then the dragon dissolved. Shadow faded to mist. Stone crumbled to dust. Whisper and Thorn unraveled into nothing. The essences pulled apart, no longer bound, and within seconds there was nothing left but silence and the smell of ozone and burnt magic. The team stood in the wrecked street, breathing hard, weapons still raised, waiting. Nothing else came. Slowly, very slowly, Clora lowered the staff of light. "Everyone okay?" "Define okay," Derren muttered, leaning on Thunderstrike like it was the only thing keeping him upright. Eli's bracer was cracked but still functional. I'm good. Mostly. Argoz pushed herself to her feet, left arm cradled against her ribs. The celestial gem pulsed, and whatever was broken was already starting to knit. I'm going to feel that for a week. Omega padded over to Clora, sniffed her once to confirm she was intact, then sat. His tail wagged once. Good hunt. Footsteps echoed down the lane, running boots, multiple sets. The 5077th patrol appeared, weapons raised, eyes wide at the wreckage. The sergeant who'd greeted them earlier stopped dead, staring at the ruined kiln house, the scorched street, the exhausted team standing in the middle of it all. What the hell happened here? He demanded. Derren looked up, covered in dust and dragon ash, leaning on Thunderstrike like a cane. Dragon. The sergeant blinked. Dragon. Yep. Derren patted Thunderstrike's stock. Second one this year, actually. I'm thinking I need to start painting kill marks on this thing. You know, like the old fighter aces. Little dragon silhouettes right here. Argoz limped over, wiping blood from her nose. How many dragons does it take to be an ace? 5, Derren said. I only need 3 more and I qualify. Clora turned to him, voice flat. Please stop fighting dragons. I'm not trying to fight dragons, Derren protested. They keep getting left in boxes by trickster daughters who have opinions about property security. Eli appeared from the ruined building, carrying the crate carefully. At least this one didn't burn the evidence. Small mercies, Derren muttered. The sergeant looked from the team to the wreckage to the space where a dragon had been moments before. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. I need to file a report. Good luck with that, Derren said. Ashley arrived moments later, Beta at her side, moving fast. She took in the scene, collapsed building, scorched street, exhausted team, and her expression shifted through several emotions before settling on grim acceptance. Dragon? She asked. Dragon, Clora confirmed. Ashley looked at the ruined kiln house, then back at the team. Did you get what you came for? Eli held up the crate. Every piece of it. Then let's get you back to base, Ashley said. Debrief, medical, and someone's buying the first round because I am not explaining this to engineering without alcohol. They moved as a unit back toward the square, slower than they'd come, limping and exhausted, but alive. Behind them, the 5077th began cordoning off the area, and somewhere, someone was going to have to figure out how to explain a collapsed building and dragon ash to the Market Council. But that was someone else's problem. The pack had their evidence, they had their trail, and they had survived Ravina's gift. Chapter 5. Threads and Shadows. The command center was quieter than the wreckage they'd left behind. Ashley had cleared the main briefing room, posted guards outside, and made it very clear that the pack had priority access. Inside, the walls were lined with tactical displays showing portal status, patrol routes, and the slow, steady heartbeat of Mirkdusk base, functioning as it should. A large table dominated the center, obsidian surface etched with map overlays that could shift between realms at a touch. Clora set the crate on the table with more care than it probably needed. Her hands were steady, but the exhaustion was there, in the set of her shoulders, the careful way she moved, the faint tremor when she thought no one was looking. Eli had already claimed a workstation along the wall, her cracked bracer interfacing with the base systems. Medical had tried to pull her away for treatment, scrapes, bruises, possible concussion, but she'd waved them off with a promise of later that everyone knew meant never unless I pass out. Derren slouched in a chair that probably cost more than his first car, Thunderstrike propped against the armrest. Someone had brought him water. He'd been staring at it for 5 minutes without drinking. Argoz sat cross-legged on the floor near Omega, left arm in a makeshift sling that the celestial gem was slowly rendering unnecessary. The gem pulsed steadily at her throat, healing, stabilizing, doing what it did. She'd refused the medic too, though she'd at least let them clean the blood off her face. Omega lay beside her, head on his paws, eyes half closed, exhausted, but watchful. Ashley stood near the door, arms crossed, Beta at her side. The timber wolf had pressed close to Ashley the moment they'd returned, sensing stress, offering comfort the way wolves do. Ashley's hand rested on Beta's head, fingers moving absently through fur. "All right," Clora said, breaking the silence. "Let's see what we fought a dragon for." She opened the crate. The contents were laid out methodically. The brass swaddle pin with the healer's rune, the torn cart chit marked Outer Farms, the red thread knotted twice, and the flake of vile lac that caught the light like frozen honey. Eli rolled her chair over, bracer already scanning. Starting with the pin. Healer's mark is genuine, old style, pre-consolidation. Whoever engraved this trained in traditional medicine, not modern synthesis. That narrows the pool. She picked up the cart chit with tweezers, holding it under her bracer's light. Outer Farms, dusk mark. This is a transit tag, used for goods moving between settlements. The dusk stamp means evening departure, which gives us a time window. Her eyes flicked across data streaming on her display. Cross-referencing with Ashley's customs logs. Got 3 matches in the last 2 months, all legitimate cargo. Grain, medical supplies, textiles. But one of them wasn't so legitimate, Derren said. Probably not, Eli agreed. She set the chit aside and picked up the red thread. Buyer's token. This is old-school tradecraft. Physical markers used when you can't risk magical signatures or digital trails. Someone carries this, shows it at a checkpoint, and the seller knows they're authorized. "Can you trace it?" Clora asked. "Not directly," Eli said, "but the pattern of the knot is specific. 2 loops, 3rd turn twist. That's a particular style. I can cross-reference it against known operatives, but it'll take time." She set the thread down and picked up the vile lac flake with extreme care. "And this is the jackpot." Her bracer hummed, shifting through analysis modes. Chemical composition, residual enchantments, molecular structure. Data scrolled faster than anyone but Eli could read. "Vile lac is alchemical sealant," she said, voice shifting into lecture mode without her realizing it. "Used to seal containers that hold potent substances. Potions, essences, biological samples. It's expensive, hard to make, and it holds a signature of whatever it was sealing." She adjusted filters. "This sample is fresh, less than 3 weeks old. And the residue?" She paused, frowning. "What?" Clora asked. "It's hybrid," Eli said slowly. "Human and something else. Infernal markers, but not pure demon. More like diluted. 2nd generation, maybe 3rd. She looked up. This sealed a container holding biological material from a hybrid child. The room went very still. "Ultranacious's son," Clora said quietly. "Has to be," Eli confirmed. "The signature matches what we'd expect from a demon-human hybrid. And if they're transporting biological samples, blood, tissue, something for medical analysis, that confirms the healer's mark, this child is under active medical care." Ashley stepped closer to the table. "So we've got a location, Outer Farms, a time window, dusk transports, a contact marker, the red thread, and confirmation the child exists and is being treated medically, not ritually." "That's more than we had an hour ago," Derren said, "before the dragon." Clora studied the items, mind already running scenarios. Outer Farms is a settlement, not a city. Small population, agricultural focus. If Black Dawn is moving a hybrid child through there, they're doing it quietly, low profile. "Or they own the place," Ashley said. "Outer Farms has been compliant. No resistance when we set up the base. No complaints. Just quiet cooperation. Could be they're afraid. Could be they're bought." "Could be both," Eli said. Clora picked up the crate, turning it over in her hands. It was light, too light. She'd noticed before, but there hadn't been time to examine it properly. The wood was reinforced with metal bands, and the closed-eye brand was slightly off-center on the lid, exactly as Ravina had described. But something felt wrong. She ran her fingers along the interior, feeling for seams, for anything that didn't sit flush. The bottom of the crate was smooth, solid. Number. Not solid. There was a ridge. Faint, barely perceptible, but there. She pressed, and a section of the false bottom shifted with a soft click. Everyone stopped. Clora carefully pried up the false bottom, revealing a hidden compartment underneath. Inside was a single piece of parchment, folded once, sealed with wax that bore the same closed eye symbol as the crate's brand. She broke the seal and unfolded it. The handwriting was precise, elegant, and unmistakably Ravina's. If you're reading this, you survived. Well done. What you've found will lead you to the child, eventually. But there's more you need to know, and I couldn't risk putting it anywhere the first hunter might find it. The child is in Umbral. Not passing through, not hidden there temporarily. In Umbral. It's the safest place Black Dawn has left. No resistance, no interference. Full control, full cooperation. The entire realm is theirs. Outer Farms is a waypoint. They use it to move supplies, to coordinate, but the child isn't there. Umbral is the fortress. That's where you'll find what you're looking for. Getting there won't be easy. Umbral is a closed realm. Most portals don't reach it, and the ones that do are heavily guarded. You'll need a keyed anchor, a guide who knows the routes, and a very good reason for Black Dawn not to kill you on sight. Or you'll need to be clever. I'd recommend clever. One more thing. The child isn't a prisoner. It's being protected. From what, I don't know. But someone in Black Dawn believes that child is valuable enough to hide in the one place they still control completely. Figure out why, and you'll understand what they're planning. Good hunting. Clora read it twice, then handed it to Eli without a word. Eli scanned it, expression darkening. Umbral. Of course it's Umbral. What's Umbral? Argoz asked from the floor. Eli set the note on the table where everyone could see. Closed realm. Small. Isolated. Hard to reach. It was a minor trade hub once, but it's been off the main routes for decades. When Black Dawn was at its height, they moved in. No one pushed back. No resistance. No opposition. The locals either joined them or stayed quiet. And now? Derren asked. Now it's the last place they have full control, Ashley said grimly. We've been pushing them out of everywhere else, Earth, Concordia, even the fringe settlements. But Umbral? We don't have assets there. No eyes, no allies, no infrastructure. It's a fortress, Clora said, and they've got the child inside it. Derren leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. So, how do we get into a closed realm controlled entirely by people who want us dead? Carefully, Eli said. Very carefully, Clora amended. She looked at the note again, at Ravina's precise handwriting. You'll need a keyed anchor, a guide who knows the routes, and a very good reason for Black Dawn not to kill you on sight. We need intelligence, Clora said. Deep intelligence. Someone who knows Umbral's layout, its defences, how Black Dawn operates there. Someone who's been inside. Ashley's jaw tightened. That's a short list. It is, Clora agreed. She met Ashley's eyes. We need to go back to Concordia. We need to talk to Rose. Ashley nodded slowly. Rose has contacts we don't. Information networks, old Black Dawn defectors, people who owe her favours. If anyone can get you away into Umbral, it's her. And Kale, Eli added. He was tracking Black Dawn remnants. He might have intel on Umbral routes or anchor locations. Clora looked around the table at her team. Exhausted, battered, but alive. And they had a lead. A real, actionable lead. We're not going in blind, she said. We go to Concordia. We brief Rose and Kale. We gather everything we can, maps, contacts, anchor keys, entry strategies. We plan this down to the minute. Because if we're going into a Black Dawn fortress, we're doing it right. Or not at all, Derren muttered. Or not at all, Clora agreed. Ashley straightened. I'll coordinate transport. You'll have portal access to Concordia within the hour. I'll send word ahead to Rose that you're coming. Appreciated, Clora said. Eli began packing up the evidence, carefully sealing each item, logging it into her database, making sure nothing was lost or contaminated. The note from Ravina went into a protective sleeve, the crate into a secure container. Argoz stood, testing her weight on her left leg. The celestial gem had done its work. The limp was gone, the arm functional again. So we're going to Concordia. We are, Clora confirmed. Good, Argoz said. I like Concordia. Better food than Mirkdusk. No offence, Ashley. None taken, Ashley replied. Our food is terrible. Derren finally picked up the water someone had brought him and drank it in one long pull. All right. Concordia, Rose, planning, strategizing, then Umbral. He set the empty cup down. Just so we're clear, if there's a dragon in Umbral, I'm calling it now. 3 down, 2 to go for ace status. There won't be a dragon, Eli said. You don't know that, Derren replied. I'm 90% sure. That's not 100. Clora stood, signalling the end of the debrief. Gear up. Light packs. We're not staying long in Concordia, just long enough to get what we need. Omega, with me. The dire wolf rose, stretched, and padded to her side. Ashley walked them to the door. Be careful in Concordia. Rose is an ally, but her city is complicated. Lot of eyes watching, lot of people with their own agendas. We'll keep our heads down, Clora said. You just fought a dragon, Ashley replied. Keeping your heads down isn't exactly your strong suit. Clora almost smiled. We'll try. Beta rose and moved to Omega, touching noses with her son one more time. A brief moment, maternal concern, quiet reassurance. Then Omega turned back to Clora, ready. Ashley watched them go, one hand still resting on Beta's head. Stay safe, she called after them. We'll do our best, Derren called back. They left the command center and moved through Mirkdusk base toward the Concordia gate. The market was still open, traders calling their wares, children running between stalls. Life continuing, unaware of the dragon that had died in the old quarter, unaware of the hunt that was only just beginning. At the gate, the portal shimmered, stable, waiting. Beyond it, Concordia. Beyond Concordia, answers. And beyond the answers, Umbral. Clora looked at her team one more time. Ready? Ready, Eli confirmed. Ready, Argoz said. Derren hefted Thunderstrike onto his shoulder. Let's go talk to the scary information broker lady. She's not that scary, Argoz said. You didn't see her negotiate, Derren replied. They stepped through the portal together, leaving Mirkdusk behind. Back in the command center, Ashley stood alone with Beta, looking at the tactical display. The map showed Mirkdusk in green, Concordia in blue, and far to the east, barely marked on the overlay, a small notation. Umbral, status unknown. She touched the notation and the display expanded. A closed realm. No recent intelligence. No confirmed portal routes. No known allies. A fortress. Beta whined softly, sensing her tension. I know, Ashley murmured, hand moving through the wolf's fur. They're walking into something bad. But their pack. They'll find a way. She closed the display and turned toward the door. There was work to do, reports to file, engineers to coordinate, a market council that was going to have questions about the collapsed kiln house. But first, she needed to send a message to Rose. They're coming, and they're going to need everything you've got. She sent it, then looked down at Beta. Come on, let's go check on the perimeter. Your boy's going to be fine. He's got a good alpha. Beta's tail wagged once, trusting, and together they left the command center. In Concordia, the message arrived. Rose read it once, twice, then set her glass down with deliberate care. She looked at Lyra, who stood near the window, always watching. The pack is coming. They've got a lead on Ultranacious's child. It's in Umbral. Lyra's expression didn't change, but her hand drifted toward the hilt of her blade. Umbral's a death trap. I know, Rose said. You're going to help them anyway. I am. Lyra nodded, unsurprised. Then we'd better start calling in favours, because if they're going into Umbral, they're going to need more than luck. Rose stood, already moving, already planning. Send word to Kale. Tell him to meet us here tonight, and dig up everything we have on Umbral. Routes, contacts, defectors, anything. On it, Lyra said, already moving. Rose paused at the door, looking back at her city through the tall windows. Concordia. Her city. Built from ash and ambition, held together by will and careful alliances. The pack was coming, and they were going to ask her to help them walk into a Black Dawn fortress. She smiled, sharp, dangerous, and utterly committed. Let's see what we can do, she said, and the wheels began to turn. Chapter 6. Epilogue. The Ceremony. The chamber was carved from living stone, deep beneath the Shattered Verge, where light had never touched and never would. No torches burned here, the illumination came from elsewhere, from the runes etched into every surface, glowing with a sickly green that pulsed like a heartbeat that refused to die. The air was thick, not with moisture, but with presence, the weight of magic held too long, compressed too tight, waiting for release. In the centre of the chamber, on a raised platform of black stone, lay a child, 6 months old, small, fragile in the way all infants are, soft skin and tiny fists that curled reflexively even in sleep. The child's breathing was steady, untroubled, unaware of what surrounded him or what was about to happen. Around the platform, arranged in a perfect circle, stood 13 figures in robes of deep crimson and shadow black. Their faces were hidden beneath hoods, but their hands were visible, pale, trembling slightly, fingers already weaving patterns in the air as they prepared. Priests, sorcerers, wizards, the last of Black Dawn's true practitioners, those who had survived the purges and the hunts and the fall. They had gathered for this. The chamber's entrance groaned, not a door opening but reality itself bending as the trader stepped through. He wore no ceremonial garb, just the long black coat he always wore, collar turned up, hands loose at his sides. The veins beneath his skin glowed faintly silver, the mark of the essence he carried, the power that should have died with Ultranacious but hadn't. He moved with the calm of someone who owned every room he entered, even ones carved from nightmares. The circle of robed figures turned toward him as one. The head priest stepped forward, older than the others, hunched beneath the weight of years and choices that couldn't be undone. His voice, when it came, was thin and uncertain. "Trader," he said, the title carrying more weight than any name. "We are prepared. The runes are set. The channels are open. The child is stable." He paused, hands tightening on the staff he carried. "But I must ask, are you certain we should proceed?" The trader's gaze moved from the priest to the child on the platform. The infant slept on, unaware. "You have doubts," the trader said. It wasn't a question. The priest's hood shifted as he nodded. "The mother. Syrian. She does not know we intend to do this. When she learns we have aged her child, 5 years. Without her knowledge, without her consent." His voice dropped. "She will not forgive this. She will come for us. For all of us." The trader's expression didn't change. "Let me worry about Syrian. She is dangerous." "She is grief," the trader interrupted, voice soft but unyielding. "And grief makes noise. I will handle the noise." He stepped closer to the platform, looking down at the child. "This is necessary. You know why?" The priest hesitated, then bowed his head. "Yes, trader." Another voice spoke from the circle, a woman's, younger, sharper. "This ceremony will drain us. Completely. Every ounce of magic we possess will be poured into the working. For days, perhaps weeks, we will be vulnerable, defenseless." She paused. "If the pack finds us, if the Guardians track us here." "They won't," the trader said. "You can't know that." He turned to face her, and the glow beneath his skin brightened just enough to cast shadows across his face. "I can. And I do." His voice carried the weight of certainty that came from seeing too many moves ahead. "The pack is hunting, but they're hunting in the wrong places, asking the wrong questions. By the time they find the right answers, this will be done." The woman held his gaze for a moment, then bowed her head. "As you say, trader." The trader looked around the circle, meeting each hooded face in turn. "This child is the last living piece of Ultranacious. His blood, his legacy, his potential." His voice didn't rise, but it filled the chamber anyway. "If we do nothing, he remains an infant, helpless, dependent, useless. But if we act, if we compress 5 years of growth into a single night, we give him what he needs to become what he was meant to be." "And what is that?" the head priest asked quietly. The trader smiled, just barely, just enough. "A weapon, a heir, a future." He turned back to the child. "This is worth the risk. All of it. Your magic, your vulnerability, even Syrian's wrath." He looked at the priest. "Do you trust me?" The priest's hands tightened on his staff. Then slowly, he nodded. "I do." "Then take your position." The head priest bowed and stepped back into the circle, finding his place among the others. The 13 figures raised their hands in unison, and the runes on the walls flared brighter, green light flooding the chamber, casting everything in shades of sickness and shadow. One of the sorcerers spoke, voice tight with strain. "We begin on your word, trader." The trader stepped back from the platform, giving them space. He didn't need to participate. He was the anchor, the reason this was possible at all. His presence alone was enough to stabilize what should have torn reality apart. He looked at the child one last time. Small, innocent, unaware of the weight being placed on shoulders too young to carry it. "Begin," the trader said. The chant started low, 13 voices speaking in a language that predated words, that bypassed meaning and went straight to the bones of the world. The runes responded, light pulsing in rhythm with the voices, and the air in the chamber began to thicken, to press, to become something more than air. Magic poured from the circle. Not in streams, but in floods. Everything the 13 had, everything they were, pulled from their bodies and woven into a single working. The child began to glow, faintly at first, then brighter, a soft golden light that had nothing to do with the sickly green of the runes. Time bent, not broken, not shattered, just compressed. 5 years folded into moments, growth accelerated, potential forced to unfold too soon. The child's body began to change, slowly at first, then faster, limbs lengthening, features sharpening, infancy giving way to childhood, childhood to something older. The robed figures trembled. Sweat ran down hidden faces. One collapsed to their knees, still chanting, still pouring everything they had into the spell. Another swayed, barely holding position. The magic was devouring them from the inside out, but they didn't stop. Couldn't stop. The working had momentum now, and momentum demanded completion. The trader watched without expression, arms crossed, patient as stone. Minutes passed. Hours. Time itself became uncertain in the presence of the spell. And then, silence. The chanting stopped. The light faded. The runes dimmed to a faint, exhausted glow. On the platform the child was gone. In his place lay a boy, 5 years old, dark hair, sharp features, eyes still closed, but the shape of the face, the line of the jaw ultranacious, unmistakable, undeniable. The boy's chest rose and fell, breathing steady, still asleep, still unaware. Around the circle, the 13 figures collapsed, some to their knees, some all the way to the floor. Their magic was gone, drained, spent, burned away. They were empty vessels now, hollow and vulnerable, exactly as they'd warned. The head priest lifted his head with visible effort, looking at the boy on the platform. "It is done. The trader stepped forward, moving between the fallen practitioners without concern. He stopped beside the platform and looked down at the boy, no longer an infant, no longer helpless. Yes, the trader said quietly. It is. He reached out and placed a hand on the boy's forehead. The child stirred just slightly, but didn't wake. Not yet. The body had aged, but the mind needed time to catch up. Days, perhaps. Maybe a week. But when he woke, he would be ready. The trader straightened and turned to the head priest. Take them to the recovery chambers. Rest. Rebuild your strength. You'll be vulnerable, but you'll be protected. No one will find you here. The priest nodded weakly. And, Syrian? I will tell her when the time is right, the trader said. Not before. She will be furious. She will, the trader agreed. And then she will understand. Or she won't. Either way, it changes nothing. He looked back at the boy. This was necessary. She'll see that eventually. The priest didn't argue. He was too tired, too drained, and the trader's certainty left no room for doubt. One by one, the robed figures were helped from the chamber, stumbling, leaning on each other, magic burned and exhausted. The chamber emptied, leaving only the trader and the boy. The trader stood in silence for a long moment, studying the child who was no longer a child. 5 years stolen, 5 years gifted. The line between the two was thinner than most would admit. You'll hate me for this, the trader said quietly, though the boy couldn't hear him, when you understand what was taken from you. But hate is useful. It sharpens the mind, focuses the will. He turned and walked toward the chamber's exit, coat trailing behind him like a shadow that refused to stay put. At the threshold, he paused and looked back one final time. The boy lay still on the black stone platform, bathed in the faint green glow of dying runes. Small, alone, but no longer helpless. Welcome to the war, the trader said. And then he was gone, and the chamber was silent except for the breathing of a child who had been given a future he never asked for.